Right, hello everyone. So today we're going to be doing a generic video on Webman. I do get a lot of questions about it, and rightly so. You know, it is important to keep the temperatures as low as possible. Um, and yeah, the cooler the better. Um, so yeah, aircon room, great. If not, keep your room somehow cool. It's as simple as that. But having a cool room is not going to just do it on its own. You do need to have control of your fan speed, and Webman through the custom dash is going to give you everything you need. Now, here you can see I'm running a very low resourceful game quite deliberately, so this won't resource the CPU or GPU at all, but it gives me a good benchmark for how low temperatures. I want to see the bottom end, I want to see the top end. So the bottom end is a game like this, which is very, very unresourceful, and then the top end is like a game like The Last of Us, which maxes out that CPU and and the GPU as well. So what we've been looking to do is have a look at Webman, why it's important, you know, to be able to control your fan speed, and at the end of the day, if you do what I asked you to in this video, then you're going to have a console that's going to last a lot longer. So currently you can see that we've got 32% fan speed, and a lot of people will be like, so right, why do you set it at 32% fan speed to begin with? And the answer is very, very simple. You will reach 32% fan speed probably within about 40 minutes to an hour of gameplay playing your PS3 anyway. By then though, your temperatures are in the mid 70s. So yeah, basically the system control system, called SYSCON for short, basically is a reactive fan speed. It's geared towards a quiet gaming experience. But the way I see it is, once you put the volume on this, you don't really hear the fan anymore. And a lot of people are nowhere near their console when they're playing it. So look, let's just put the volume up, and then your mind is focused on the actual noise of the game. You know, a lot of people associate a loud fan with maybe a overheating system, but actually it's the other way around with custom firmware. We've set the fan to 32%, and that's keeping it cool. Whereas if it was on 32% through system control, it would be very, very hot. So yeah, it's not rocket science to understand that by setting it at a minimum of 32 to begin with, and setting it also that it doesn't go above 68 degrees. This is what this max here, max 68, it will not go above that. If your system gets near 68 degrees, the fan gets higher and higher, okay, to counteract it. But if you run your system at 32% fan speed, you know, you shouldn't really be getting anywhere near the top end of 68 to 70 degrees. I have sold some to very hot countries though. If you're not in an aircon room, yeah, it's going to get towards the 70 degrees quite easily. And I would recommend increasing your fan speed from 32 to 35% as a benchmark to begin with, if that's the case. But you can get a feel for it, and you can actually go into Webman yourself. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So I'm just going to quit out of this. And also Webman's really useful for maintenance as well, and I'll go into that a little bit as well for you guys. So look, we go into Webman Games, Webman Setup, and we go to the main page, PS3 Webman Setup. And here, where my controller is, it says Auto, and then at the moment it says 33. So that means it's going to run at 32% and go to 33 and above should it get to near 68 degrees. You can see PS2 emulation is currently set at 40. That's a bit high. We can actually have PS2 emulation set at 36. That's absolutely fine. And then I've got manual control at 35. And a lot of people say, well, why would you have a manual control at 35? Well, you know, if you're playing The Last of Us or anything like that, you can set it to 35 and very easily without having to, you know, go to this box, delete what you've got, and then put 35. But I'd recommend you do that actually, because on manual there is no maximum temperature that it will get to. It will just, So basically, if you're on 35% and it get into 68 to 70 degrees, it will allow it. Whereas if you're in auto and you set this to 35, actually 36, don't forget it's always one higher. So if you want it to run at 35, you have to put 36. If you do that and press save, and here you don't have to necessarily click here and restart. You can actually just press the circle button on your controller and select yes to exit the browser, and you'll notice that your fan speed's gone to 35 without having to do a restart. Okay, so yeah, look, if you're in Australia and it's hot, or you've been noticing your temperatures are in the like mid 60s and you'd like to try and get them a bit lower, then you can run your system at 35% fan speed from the outset, and that's how you do it. So just to reiterate, you go into PS3 Webman Setup, you go to auto, you can see it says auto at 68 degrees, and then along here, lowest, we have that ticked, and then here we put 36, and then it goes to a maximum of 80% fan speed. It's 36 because it's one higher. In other words, it runs it at 35 and goes to 36 and above should it need to do so. Okay. Underneath you can set your PS2 emulation to what you like. So again, if you're in a hot country, 36 here is fine, but you know, you can set it to 40 if you're in, you know, a hot country. And yeah, manual I would just tend not to use. Basically, if you're going to put 30, if you're going to have your console running at 35%, then just come into this page and change it. But most games are going to be absolutely fine with you putting the value of 33 in here, and then by pressing save. And again, you don't need to press here to restart. You can just press the circle key, exit the browser, and then you can go back into Webman. Yeah, and you can now see that the fan is kicking down to 33, and it will go down to 32 eventually. So that's really your fan speeds explained. And yeah, so always keep it on auto because it protects your system from going above 68 degrees. Have it for 33 for most games, and if you're going to start playing The Last of Us and things like that, set it to 36. Or if you're in a hot country and you've noticed that your temps are a little bit high, you'd like to, or you just want to get them lower. Look, the lower the better. So the louder the fan speed, you could actually withstand absolutely fine. So for me, I'm really absolutely got no problem with running my console at 36. It means it's going to be on 35% fan speed. I've got no issue with that. I'm happy with that. And yeah, and I know it's going to protect my console and make it that much cooler. So if you want to do that, that's fine. If sound is an issue, have it on 33. A lot of people say, oh, that's still a bit loud, but please understand your console's going to, even on system control, go to 30 to 32% fan speed within an hour anyway. So just get used to it and have it from the outset, and that's going to protect your system. The difference is when SYSCON, which is system control, does it for you, you will be running temperatures in the 70s. If you do it this way around, you're going to be running temperatures in the 60s. It knocks 10 degrees off, and it's going to save your console in the long run, especially if you've got a backwards compatible unit like I have. So I did say this was useful for maintenance as well, and this is where manual control comes in. Once every fortnight, I would recommend blowing out the dust of your system. Now, when you had system control, you could never control the fan. A lot of people would suck it out with a vacuum cleaner. That's fine if you've got it unplugged and everything, but so many people did it with it plugged in, would short the system out, create errors. That wasn't good. The safest way to do it, though, through custom firmware, is just select manual, which is this one here, put in 80, and then select save. Once we do that, we don't need to click here to restart the system or anything like that. We just press the circle button to come out of the browser, and then we'll go back into the browser, and then we'll change the value down after a minute. So I'm just going to demonstrate that now. So I press save. You hear the fan kick up. I'm now going to press the circle button. I'm going to exit the browser. I'm now going to go back into the browser. And also you can do this if you've been gaming for a couple of hours and you want to get your system cooler. Just come into here, select manual, go to 80, and then look at your temps. To bring this up, you just press start and select at the same time and hold it down till you hear the beep. And to get rid of it, you do the same. You press start and select, and it will get rid of it as well. Once you see your temperatures are below 50 degrees, you can now put in 32 into manual, and that's going to take you straight down to back to 32% fan speed. We press circle and come out of the browser, and then we just press X to go back into the browser. And then what we do is we now go from manual, and we'll put in 35 or whatever value that you want to select manual at, and then go to auto, and now press save again, and then press circle to come out. You don't need to restart the system. And you can now see my fan's at 35 and it's protected, and it won't go above 68 degrees. The system's going to protect that. Right, so just to reiterate, Webman Games, Webman Setup, PS3 Webman Setup. Alright, this is where you're going to get your fan control. You can see it auto. You put in the value. I have it set to 33. If you want to protect your system and make it even cooler, put in 36. Your PS2 emulator is probably at 36, but if you're in a hot country, you can put it to 40. I ain't got a problem with it being on 40 anyway. The cooler the better. So I'm happy to select 40 for mine. Okay. When you want to blow out the fan, you just select manual and change the value. The way you do that is you're using your left controller as a stick, as a mouse. Okay, so you can see it moving around there, and then you just press X and backspace, and then put in whatever value you want. In our case 80, and then by pressing save, it's going to blow it out. If once a fortnight, just leave that running for about a minute. It will blow out all the dust. And then once you've done, so we'll just do that one last time. We're going to press circle. We're going to come out of the browser. We're going to go back into the browser. We're going to change that back to 35. And then basically we press save. We press circle again, come out of the browser, go back into the browser, yeah, or just come out completely. And then from here I will then just select auto and press save. Always keep it on auto so your system is protected. Now I did say once you've been gaming for a few hours, yeah, you might want to do this. And people are just like, well, why can't I just turn off my system? It's going to get cool. Well, actually no. What will happen is say your system has been running hot. You've been gaming for a couple of hours and it's gone to like 67, 68 degrees, and the system's had to kick up the fan a little bit to try and keep it cooler, and you've been putting a little bit of strain on the CPU and GPU. If you just turn it off, there's 68 degrees of heat in your console and the fan isn't running, which means it can't take the heat away. So by coming here and selecting manual, if you want to get it cooler, you don't even have to put it at 80. You could just put it at 50% fan speed and press save. Come out of it by pressing 0, or the circle button as I like to say. Go back into PS3 Webman Setup by pressing X. And then let your system cool down. And when you see your system go below 50 degrees, you'll just change the value back to 35. Press save, press circle to come out of the browser, and press X to confirm, press X to go back into the browser. And now all we need to do is select auto, which is the one just above manual, press save, come out by pressing circle. Now our system's below 50 degrees, and now we can just turn off the system. And what that does is now you don't have heat in there. Yeah, you don't have 68 degrees of heat, you've got 49 degrees of heat, and that's perfectly safe. There's going to be very little contraction issues with the motherboard, and it's not going to cook any chips and eventually wear those out. So by doing that, after a decent gaming session, you dissipate all the heat from your console. You also take out all the dust out of your console as well, if you do that regularly and you're a regular gamer. And then by doing that, you are making sure that your chips inside the unit are not cooking once you turn off a console. And this was a big problem with Xbox 360s, and it was a problem with PS3s as well, and it is down to the manufacturers of Sony, for example, just making a nice quiet system. And I'd always say it's basically the silent killer. If you can't hear your fan, yeah, and it's running at 28%, then yeah, it's happy to run your fan at, you know, 25-28%, which you can hardly hear, and it's cooking your console at 75 to 78 degrees, and it's happy to do that. It thinks it's perfectly safe. We now have found out that the CPU and GPU is vulnerable to heat, the tokens are vulnerable to heat, so by doing this, it's going to maintain your console. Now if you bought it from me, then already the thermal paste has been changed. You have new pads. If it needs a delid, if it needs a delid, it would have had one. It would have been thoroughly tested, and yeah, everything would be done inside your console. But the custom firmware is the most important thing, and you, the user, is the most important thing to keep your console running for many, many years. So by doing what I've just shown you, then yeah, you're going to have a nice cool console. Make sure after a gaming session, if you're going to run it, you could run it at 80% fan speed to get it as cool as possible. When it goes below 50 degrees, you just press the circle button, you press X to confirm, that takes you out of the browser, then you press X to confirm to go back into the browser, which is PS3 Webman Setup. Then you change it down to whatever fan speed that you normally run it at. So if you run it at 35, select manual at 35, come out of the browser again, that circle, go press X to confirm to say yes, go back into the browser, that's X on PS3 Webman Setup, and then select auto, and make sure that at auto you have got it set to either 33 if you're running in a nice aircon room and it's cool, or 36 if you just want to have extra protection and make sure that your console's running even cooler. Okay, so those are the temperatures, the rationale behind it, why it's so important. Yeah, I get a lot of people saying, I just want a nice quiet console, and I'll turn around to them and say, well, you better get used to 3 beeps, a flashing red light with a yellow flash as well, or a green light which just turns on and nothing on the screen. And the reason for that is heat is going to create system failure inside your system. And that's why, unfortunately, we had a lot of PS3s, biting the dust and dying. By doing this, you, the user, are maximizing the use of your custom firmware to protect your console. And also, like I say, everything's been done, all the mods have been done on the inside to help that with that as well. So, if you just stick to those simple set of instructions, you're going to be golden. Hope you enjoyed the video, and just ping me a message if you need to know anything else. All right, take care, guys. Bye.